and welcome to episode 23 of the GrowCast Show. I have with me today Eugene Koh from Eugene Koh Property, and he's also a realtor at PropNex. Eugene, how are you feeling today, my man?
Awesome, bro. Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure. Both me and Eugene are not feeling so well because we just watched the United and Spurs game where Spurs unfortunately came back from 2-2. Any thoughts about the game, buddy?
Every time I finish watching the Man U game, I don't know, I feel very depressed. I don't know, this morning the Monday blues just came in extra hard, right?
Is that why you decided to wear blue today?
I guess maybe.
Very nice, very nice. So, Eugene, I always like to ask my guests this one question which everybody has to answer, all right?
Okay.
Which is, what does being better than normal mean to you?
Being better than normal, actually, what I think, all of us, we will have our own unique characteristics and personalities, right? And these are actually normal to us as human beings. And in actual fact, all of us have like different, and sometimes we think that it's not so ideal, right? In, let's say, bad temper or impatience, overly competitive, etc. But sometimes it's about how we can channel these traits, right? Well, because they are distinctly us into helping us to do better. Yeah.
Makes perfect sense because each of us is unique with our own personality.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And what makes you better than normal, Eugene?
So I think I personally like to do a lot of self-reflection. So I like to identify what are my own weaker links, but I don't see them as a weak links, but I try to see how I can change per se, so that when the situation arise and my traits would have behaved in a certain way, right? I try to turn them into something that will spur me on further. Yeah.
Very nice. And I know you are in the real estate industry, right?
Yes.
So in Singapore, the real estate industry is huge, because we've got such a scarce land size here in Singapore. But can you share with us a bit about your origin story? How did you get started in real estate?
So if you ask me, I actually personally never thought I would have been in sales. So just like, most Singaporean sons or children, right? I grew up thinking that probably I want to study hard and then become like, be a lawyer, doctor in a banking sector, etc. But, circumstances changed the whole situation. So eventually I had to quit school and deal with the circumstances then. And eventually I ventured into businesses. After that, I gained more exposure and eventually I came into real estate unknowingly, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Very nice. And what were you doing before real estate?
So just right before real estate, I was actually just driving Grab. I think back then that was the early start of the whole private hire. So I really went quite hard on it. I drive like about 15 to 17 hours a day. Sometimes I even sleep in the car. Yeah, because I don't come from a very well-to-do family. So at that point in time, we do have some financial situations. So I had to really work very, very hard, to help in the situation. So eventually, of course, I knew it's not something that I want to be in for long or forever because I was still very young at the age of 25, 26. So then I started to venture into businesses and sales. Yeah.
So when you were driving Grab for those, 12, 15 hours, right? Can I ask, what did you learn driving Grab for 15 hours?
So I make it a point, every passenger that came on board, I try to talk to them just to strike a conversation. It is like and sometimes it also helped me, right? Because driving long hours can be pretty tiring. So actually what I realized, when I reflect back, right? I learned how to communicate with different type of people and also handle different people, because some of them can be pretty nasty and some are, in general, most Singaporeans or passengers are just nicer. Yeah.
And then so since Grab, so did you, while you were driving Grab, because I know real estate, you have to take your papers and all of that, right?
Yeah.
While driving Grab, did you already know that real estate was going to be your destination? Or how did that transition happen for you from Grab to real estate?
So again, all these were unexpected. My family actually had to sell our place, and due to the agent who handled our transaction did the right gave the right advice. Eventually, after we sold the place, we didn't get the outcome that we wanted. So during the whole sale and purchase phase, I wasn't involved at all. In fact, I was pretty upset that we had to move. But once everything was over, I spoke to my parents, and then I hear their frustrations about what went wrong. So at that point, I was clueless about real estate. Then I started to read up more, and I guess that eventually this prompted me to go into real estate. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's interesting because, everybody, I realized that, scratching your own itch is one thing which I realized how all businesses actually begin. And your situation also sounds something similar as well. But why did you choose real estate instead of other career routes, like insurance, business, banking?
I knew that going back to the corporate route wasn't something that I was looking at that point in time, because, I already left school and everything. So I had to start something. So I did try to go into sales and marketing startup. So I think that itself gave me a lot of experience and exposure. But I realized one thing, that I am not exactly someone who is very good with coming up business ideas. But I am pretty good at replicating a system, something to do. So eventually that straight away brings me into insurance or real estate, because we have seen many success stories where people are just replicating their mentors' framework and model, and that brings them their success. Yeah. So between insurance and real estate, I think also at that point in time, as I mentioned earlier, the experience that my family went through, so that definitely brought me inching towards real estate, because I don't wish for any other families to went through what we went through. Yeah.
I think the modeling after and mentoring is also something that is very, very important, regardless of where you are, whether you're a business owner or whether you're in a corporate life, right?
Yes.
And it's like what you say, it's not very easy starting new business ideas. That's why 99% of businesses actually end up failing. But now that you've been, I realize the character trait of modeling, mentoring is something that you have. What are the character traits needed to be successful in real estate, Eugene?
For real estate, I think first of all, someone has to have a very strong focus, because ultimately, just like any other business, you once you start, you have to really focus on what you set out to do. And along the way, once your business start to pick up, it's also important to stay focused on what you want to build eventually, because it's very easily to get distracted along the way and sway off track. But at the same time, also is not to get too complacent once your business starts to pick up, because I think it's quite we do see quite commonly in that sense as well. And once your business is getting its flow already, but sometimes just like any other businesses, right? There are ups and downs. It doesn't mean that it is always smooth sailing, and every business have their story to tell, right? Like their own ups and down stories, how their struggles and everything. So you have to have very strong determination and perseverance to really pull through the hard times and remember what you set out to achieve when you first set foot into this business first. Yeah.
Makes sense. The strong why, am I correct?
Yes.
And these are the character traits for a successful career in real estate. But Eugene, maybe do you mind sharing what 3 words would your clients usually use to describe you?
Handsome. No, just kidding. But I think generally they find that I'm very knowledgeable and updated about the market itself, because I really spend a lot of time every day just to keep in touch with what's happening and what are the market trends like. And people who have gotten in touch with me, they also find that I'm very real and genuine. I am here coming with them for this lifelong real estate journey, not a one-off transactional kind. Yeah. If it's not advisable for them to take this particular action, I will tell them. I will not just sell or buy just to earn that commission one time off and that's it. Actually, in fact, most of the clients I work with till today, I still meet them for lunch, dinner. Yeah.
It's a long-term game, right?
Yes.
And these are great characteristics, and I personally believe that as well, because no point just going after a one-off commission when actually the reality is we are all in business, but the lifetime value of a customer is a lot longer. I think we spoke about the trust funnel as well, building that trust. Because sometimes, even if you tell them that it's not right for you, they actually trust you even more. They know that you're not just doing it for the money as well. But you mentioned, Eugene, that you stay up to date with the property market, the trends, right? And this is something that's always changing in Singapore. So for yourself, how do you stay updated with the property market and the regulations?
So we're very blessed. I mean, in PropNex, right? So in PropNex, we do have our own research team. So they do all the necessary research whenever the data comes out. And then, of course, our senior managements and our directors, they will, explain to us month to month, quarter to quarter, what all this data means and what's in it in the market, like an outlook. And from there, we learn and absorb and understand. That's how we can pass it on to our clients. And of course, I do my own homework as well. Day to day, every day, when I wake up or before I sleep, I try to read the news, because it doesn't always have to be just data, right? Sometimes it's just even knowing what are the, which area caught fire, or what are the illegal things, wrongdoings or this or that. So I learned from there as well. Yeah.
Very nice. And let's dive deep into all the knowledge that you have, because I know I've got lots of questions that I want to learn about property as well. So one of the first questions that I want to ask you, Eugene, is, because of ABSD, right? Do you feel that Singaporeans should look at overseas property as an alternative investment?
I think that's a very good question, actually, because especially in the recent times, right, when people all think that property prices are getting very, very high and they are all venturing into overseas property. I won't say that it's outright yes or no, but you must know what you're getting into when you decide to dive into overseas property. Because first of all, there's a currency risk. So our Singapore currency is very stable and strong. So the country that you are going into, you need to know that generally the fluctuations can erode away the potential capital appreciation. Because I have had clients who experienced this before. And also, apart from the currency risk, is the stability of the real estate market itself. And I think COVID has actually proven Singapore's real estate market in the world itself, because most countries during the COVID period, their property prices did take a dip, but in fact in Singapore, and uniquely Singapore, property prices actually went up during COVID. Yeah.
And why do you feel that happened? Why do you feel, Eugene, that property prices in Singapore went up during COVID while other countries the prices went down?
I think our Singapore's real estate has a very strong stability because of it's quite a heavily government-induced market, because our government actually has a lot of cooling measures set in place. So this ensures the foundation of the market, so that people do not over speculate, or any market changes like the COVID period. It doesn't cause unnecessary fire sale per se, because these are usually when people are unable to sustain all this, then they have to do fire sale, right? So some of these measures put in place actually helps to ensure there's a very strong foundation. So that's why time to time, when you see that when prices are the government feel the prices are going too high, they will already step in to implement some measures. Although Singaporeans, we are thinking that property prices are already still very high despite all these measures. Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree with you as well. And let's go into a specific context, all right, Eugene? Let's say if I'm a single 35-year-old and I can afford a private property, should I get the private property or should I get a BTO?
I think so. I think that's a question that a lot of my clients actually ask as well, right? Because first of all, private properties are not cheap. Neither are HDB cheap, right? But it seems like they're more comfortable with affording HDB. But generally, if you speak to most agents in Singapore, we usually advise to go for private property. But buying a condo in today's context is no longer about in the past we talk a lot about the 5 Cs, and condo is one of the 5 Cs. But in today's context, condo we no longer talk so much about the 5C. And when we advise people to step foot into condo as fast as possible, is actually to quickly build their capital and grow their net worth, and eventually build their retirement funds. Yeah,
makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah, so many singles around, right? I've got many single friends as well approaching. I mean, I'm 35 this year, so all my single friends watching, you know what to do. Watch this video, all right? So, Eugene, what are the 3 common mistakes, right, couples make when they are buying their first property?
I think a lot lot of times when they start their property journey, they didn't do planning in terms of their finances and understanding the market itself, what's the best option for them to take on to start to build this property journey of theirs. Yeah, and a lot of times they think that this property they're going to buy is going to be their forever home. But most of the times we see clients, the first home that they buy is usually never their forever home. Whenever they're purchasing, they come with a lot of fear, definitely, right? Because real estate is ultimately the biggest purchase that you're going to make in your life, right? So they tend to be very, go on the safer side. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to, that's why we say you always need to make sure that you have a plan well. Yeah.
And what advice would you give to a younger Eugene when it comes to property?
Well, if I can turn back time, I will definitely tell myself to buy a property as early as I can. Yeah, because we only have that many cycles of real estate that we can really be in, because real estate is just like any other market, right? It's a cycle. There's ups and downs, and each cycle we are seeing it ranges from 5 to 10 years. So each time round, as our age catches up, we go older, then the number of cycles that we can be in gets shorter. So the earlier you start, the better. And another advice I would definitely give myself is to buy as big as I can. Yeah.
Why would one of your advice be buy as big as you can?
So basically, capital appreciation of property is always a multiplier of the size of your property, right? So the price per square foot that it goes up. So the bigger property size that you're holding, right? It means that the greater capital appreciation that you'll experience. Yeah.
Property agents, everybody knows insurance agents, everybody in their phone, they have got about 3 to 5 property agents. But how does an average Singaporean find a property agent they can trust?
I think first of all, in Singapore, we property agents, our details are, everywhere. You can find us. But it's not so much about finding an agent, because it's easy. Google, you can find a lot of, in Singapore, there's over 30,000 agents. But it's more of eventually when you decide to speak to this agent, or what kind of advice is he able to give you? What kind of value add is he bringing to you? And this is something that is very, very prevalent in today's market. Agents, we have to really value add to clients before they engage us. Yeah, it's no longer just like I'm asking, hey Eugene, I want to buy, sell, rent. It's a lot more than that now. Yeah,
I agree with you as well, because of the sheer number of agents available.
Yes,
the market has
evolved totally.
Yeah. And since COVID, like what we spoke about just now, we have seen a significant increase in property prices in Singapore. Do you feel that 2024 is finally going to be the year where property prices drop?
That's a very good question, because, right, I think for how many years that we have seen the past, how many years, every year we are hearing the same thing. Every year people are saying that this is the year that prices are going to drop. But truth is, the prices really drop. No, right? So I also don't have a crystal ball to tell you that, hey, well, 2024 be the year that property prices drop. But I think the fundamentals are showing that Singapore property prices will continue to remain very stable. And end of the day, they may not grow as fast as during COVID days, but I think we can still expect a very moderate growth. Yeah.
Makes sense. And do you feel that Singapore property prices have hit their peak?
Again, it's the same, right? I think if you ask me, when I first started the industry, would I have expected where prices are at today? OCR, new launches are going at minimally 2,000 per square foot. When I started, you can find 1,000, 3,000, 4,000. So you ask me, would I have expected this? I wouldn't have imagined this. But today we are already seeing it. In fact, OCR has already hit record prices of more than 2,000. Some developments have 2005, 2006, right? So there is definitely still room to growth, but you have to find the development with the right attributes and fundamentals. Yeah.
Okay, and what are the factors that affect property prices in Singapore, Eugene?
So property price in Singapore is generally affected by a lot of different factors, of course. You have the macro factors and micro factors, but fundamentally what I think property prices are affected by demand and supply, mainly because we are a small country with a scarcity of land, right, like you mentioned. So yet we have a growing population. The government wants to grow more population. So solely based on that, the difference in the demand and supply will be the one that drives prices up and all. Because we all know, right, when demand is high, supply is low, prices will just go up.
Makes sense as well. And there's also been news about interest rates, right? Property prices, interest rates, they go hand in hand. So there's been news about interest rates dropping in 2024. How would that affect the property market?
So that is a very, very relevant question in today's market, because I just spoke to a client yesterday as well regarding this interest rate. So the US side has actually announced that they could potentially drop the interest rate a few times in this year. So if we going back to fundamentals again, right? We have seen interest rate currently, it was at about 4%, and despite the past year of high interest rate, you still see that prices continue to go up, right? So naturally, when interest rate drops, what will happen to the demand? What do you think will happen to the demand? Go up, right? So same thing, given let's say similar supply and demand goes up, what will naturally happen to the price? Go up. Yeah, I didn't say it, you said it.
Makes sense. I mean, yeah, because I also been hearing, because I invest in stocks, so I've been following the US market as well for quite a bit with regards to interest rate. But what are the different types of, I want to move into commercial properties now. We spoke a bit about the macro.
Okay.
Let's go into the commercial. What are the different types of commercial properties that Singaporeans can invest in?
So there are actually a lot of alternative property investments that Singaporeans can make, right? So especially because if they're already holding on to a residential property and they do not want to pay the additional buyer stamp duties, so commercial sector is definitely one segment that they want to look into. But the commercial segment itself is also huge, right? We do have the shop houses, and food factories are also getting very popular. And we also have the industrial properties, both the B1 industrial and the B2 industrial. And we also have the offices, or if you are playing at a bigger scale of game, you can buy buildings even. Yeah.
That means since there's so many options, right? Do you feel though that commercial property is worth investing in?
Ultimately, it's about diversifying your portfolio as well. So commercial properties generally, if you are not going to pay ABSD and you want to get more real estate in Singapore, then definitely you can look at the commercial. But at the same time, if you're a business owner and you do not want, it's the same as why we buy houses in Singapore, right? Because we don't want to keep paying rent to our landlords, because they are the one that is earning it, right? So it's the same thing. If you're a business owner and you do have operating costs, you need a space, right? And if you buy the space for your own usage, right? So instead of paying rent to your landlord, you're actually paying off your own principal, your own, it's almost like a saving. So eventually, one day when you decide to, don't need any space again, you sell this off, and then your capital, your company basically has more assets on hand.
I agree with that, because that's something which I did for myself. For our company, we were renting in High Street Plaza.
Okay.
And then we moved into buying at High Street Centre, which is just beside.
Right.
And then that turned out to be actually one of the best business decisions, actually.
Yes, because it was still, apart from just paying a monthly, your mortgage is pretty similar, or in fact lower than your rent. And at the same time, there's potential for capital appreciation as well.
Correct. And that turned out to be one of the best business decisions, actually. So I think it makes perfect sense, especially if you're a business owner.
Yes.
Right. And is it too late though? Because I've been hearing very recently, Eugene, about shop houses, investing in shop houses. It came out in the front page of the newspapers as well. Is it too late to invest in shop houses for investment?
If I can reply that in a very short way, I think the best time was yesterday, because it's always the case. The best time is always yesterday. And so there's never too late to enter into the real estate space in Singapore, solely because, like we mentioned earlier, the fundamentals are there. If you think that the prices are already very high, but it likely will only get higher.
Okay, and does somebody need to set up a company? Because we spoke about businesses, right? Do I need to set up a company to invest in commercial property?
No, you don't have to. You can buy under your personal name as well. But if you set up a company and let's say the seller of the commercial property is GST registered, so if you are buying under your personal name, you do have to pay the GST out of your pocket. But if you are buying under your company and your company is GST registered, you can actually claim back the GST.
Okay, and that's quite a decent amount, right?
Usually, yes, especially GST just increased this year, right?
Yes, just increased. Makes sense as well. Very nice. And Eugene, because we spoke about so many things, right? But just generally speaking, from an investment perspective, why do you think that property still remains a favorable choice for investment over other financial instruments?
I think ultimately is again about diversifying your portfolio, and usually real estate takes up the biggest pie of the portfolio that they have, right? And if you're someone who is looks into a lot of risk, so you realize real estate has one of the lower risks compared to other potential one, and it generates a decent returns as well. So because in general everybody needs a roof over their head, so housing in Singapore will always be evergreen. People will always need to buy or sell it.
So do you feel that the reason why the prices are increasing is because, the designers of the property, they are actually using the space a lot better and smarter?
I think definitely as well. And also over the years, we also realized that, designers, they're getting more creative. People are getting more creative in how to maximize the space. So even with you may see that some of the houses today, you think that they're smaller, but you'll be surprised, because the number of houses we see day to day is a lot, right? So some of these designs, we never ever seen them in older houses. The way they ID all this to really maximize what they can use with the space. Yeah.
I think that's why an ID is also important. I haven't had an ID on the show, and we're going to get an ID on the show as well. And also, does that also mean, Eugene, that, resale condos, we've got new launches, we've got resale condos, right? Which one is a better investment, resale condos or new launches?
I think ultimately, right, this question of whether resale or new launch is always a hot topic among property buyers when they first look into it, right? But whether which is better, I think it ultimately depends on what are your objectives and what are your needs, right? If you are a family, you have a family of 5, you need somewhere to stay immediately. No matter how good a new launch is, I tell you, most of them, they are not inclined to, renting, moving here and there. They need an immediate space to stay. Then you still have to turn to the resale, and not say that, resale properties have no more room to grow. They still have, just that they grow at a slower pace as compared to the new launch properties. So that's why if your objective is to, make capital appreciation at a faster pace in the shorter period of time, then new launch is the option. But if you are looking at something, for homestay, for long term, and, having the mindset that if the price appreciate, then it's a bonus. Yeah, then definitely resale properties is still has its demand.
I think that means the mindset is important, right?
It depends on what their needs are as well. Yeah. But what importantly, that regardless, if you see that, understand that it's about building the capital and building the net worth, because every month when you move in there, every month you're still paying your mortgage, right? Your mortgage consists of your principal and your interest. So that itself is almost like a forced saving as well. So you have a place to stay, yet at the same time you have a forced saving there. So at the end of the day, when you decide to retire, you know safely that you have this net worth that you have, because by age 65 you have to finish paying your mortgage anyway. So if you are staying in a 1.5 million condo at the age of 65, you have a 1.5 million asset sitting with you. If you're staying in a 500k HDB at the age of 65, you have 500k HDB.
I like that mindset that you shared with that as well. And since Singapore is, I wouldn't say big or small, but we have got a few up and coming areas, right? Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. What are some areas in Singapore that Singaporeans should be looking at?
I think the government's there's this thing called the master plan, which the government announced what their plans are, right? So the very few hot ones is actually first of all the Greater Southern Waterfront, and we also seen the Tengah estate that's coming up, and in fact I stay opposite the whole Tengah part, so I've seen how it basically grew from just a forest to now there are so many houses over there, right? And also right now there's a few others, right? And then we also have seen the Lentor area, where same thing, is all greeneries and they're building houses there as well. We have 11 plots of land there building, and nearby the Tagore Lane area, they're also zone residential already. So when the government decides to spend money to help to build residential there, usually there's a lot of room for it.
We've got these 3 areas that you mentioned about. We've got the Great Southern Waterfront, we've got Tengah, we've got Lentor. Does that mean then that there will be an oversupply in these 3 areas?
So usually when there's a new area, right, usually people may not really like it, because in the past, right, actually I would say this is very similar to Punggol and Sengkang, because Punggol and Sengkang was actually an extension, right? Back then, they are not our mature estates. So when Punggol and Sengkang first came out, right, it wasn't very popular. The take-up rate was pretty low, and everybody says that it's very inconvenient, blah, blah, blah. But eventually today, right, I think District 19 itself, Punggol, Sengkang, you will see they actually have one of the highest transaction volume, right? So it shows that like eventually, right, once this estate is up, the government don't just build houses there, they're going to build a lot of activities around it, right? And eventually there will be enough things going on there to spur the demand. Yeah.
And so that's why when the government's spending money on it, Singaporeans better pay attention,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
And I mean, no right or wrong answer, but I just want to know from these three areas, right? Great Southern Waterfront, Tengah, and Lentor, which of it is your personal favorite? I give you my favorite first, the Great Southern Waterfront. So from the three, which is your favorite?
Of course, Greater Southern Waterfront, but of course, if I were to compare the three as well, it will be the most expensive out of the three as well, right? So if your finances are well checked, then of course you can go for it. But then again, as well, Greater Southern Waterfront is something that is up and coming, so it's something that in the years to come. So there's nothing around there yet. So in the immediate near future, definitely there's more at Tengah and Lentor area.
Yeah, that makes sense. So again, timeline comes into the picture,
Yes.
right? And for a new home owner, right, should they be buying a 1-bedroom in CCR or 3-bedroom in OCR?
That's a very good question because it's always a comparison, right? So I think it ultimately boils back down to what are your objectives? Yeah. Are you buying it for your own stay? Are you buying it for pure investment? And if it's for your own stay, do I need to, stay near school for schools? Because in CCR, you definitely won't be getting schools, right? So ultimately, there's no right or wrong in this context. It definitely boils back down to what are your needs and objectives. Yeah.
Eugene, there are so many things to look out for in real estate, right? It can be quite confusing. How do you help your clients to choose the right property?
So usually clients that work with me will run through with them the property roadmap itself. So firstly, I will share with them our signature essentials framework, right, to get them aligned with the market fundamentals and what's the market direction like, so that they ultimately, right, we are not here to product push. It's all about value adding. So we want clients to really understand what the market is before diving into any products. So once they are comfortable with us, then we will recommend based on their needs and objectives. We'll recommend them different products and developments per se, which they will then understand the fundamentals that we're trying to share across to them. So to choose that, we actually have our own automated profiling system it's basically a checklist of what are the different fundamentals that we look out for in the property. Yeah.
And that was Eugene. I mean, today's session itself was so educational for me. Eugene, any last words or any question which you think that I should have asked, but maybe I did not ask?
I think to sum it up, right, real estate in Singapore, I tell all my clients the same. Don't try to time the market, but it's about the time that you are in the market. So once you follow this, generally you won't go wrong because we are uniquely Singapore. Yeah.
And it is. I totally agree with you as well. I mean, that same don't time the market, timing in the market, right?
Yes,
it works for any investment. Trust me, I've been there, done that, all different types of investment. And that was Eugene Koh from Eugene Koh Property, and he's a realtor at PropNex. And that was episode 23 of the GrowCast Show. I'll see you real soon with more episodes coming out.